Everybody, thank you for coming out. My name is Matt Bolish. I work with the Convergence program here at the Film Society of Lincoln Center. It's great to see all of you here today for day 2. Thank you for getting up nice and early on your Sunday to transmediate with us, or whatever you want to call it. It's a very debatable term. We are here to do a couple of different things. One is to explore emerging kind of storytelling forms and kind of talk a little bit about how storytelling is changing, how it's shifting, and how it's moving, and how all these different kind of forms are colliding. The other thing that we're here to do is celebrate the 50th anniversary of the New York Film Festival. For the next, now it's 16 days, we'll be kind of doing these great retrospective screenings. We'll be kind of looking at the best in world cinema. So I encourage you to grab one of our program guides at some point today, take a look at what we've got, and maybe check out some film in addition to some of your some immersive storytelling. We are here this morning thanks to the efforts of a lot of folks. I always like to thank our volunteers because, quite frankly, without them, we would not be, able to function. There's only 30 so members of staff, but they're easily, 10, 20, 30 times that many volunteers in a given day that kind of make the film festival work. So our thanks to the volunteers. Also our thanks to people like our next speaker, who will be doing a brief presentation, then we'll be dialoguing a little bit, James Carter, creators and makers and thinkers and thought leaders who are getting behind Convergence and have kind of jumped on and are giving us a hand kind of kicking off this new program here at Film Society. So we're in for a real treat, and I will now turn it over to Mr. James Carter, the creator of NYHearts, to tell us a little bit about his project. Yeah, thank you. Welcome to the stage. Yeah.
Got my own mic. Ha. Hey guys, how's it going? Morning. Thanks for being here. I like the bright and early morning crowd. It means you're like diehards. How many of you guys are familiar with transmedia or what that means or the concept? Okay, cool. How many of you are creators? Oh, cool. That's awesome. How many of you are just standing by wondering what the fuck this is? Awesome. Okay. Nice. So, I'll be switching over. I'll probably just switch my first slide over. So, I'm here today to talk about NYHearts. It's a neighborhood-based location storytelling that is done on an iPhone app called Movable Feast, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. But basically, what I've done is I'm creating audio stories that take place in the heart of New York neighborhoods, and they're love stories. And there's going to be 4 different neighborhoods, and the first neighborhood was the Lower East Side. It happened in July, and it was really awesome, and had a really great time. Introduced 2 characters, Jill and Sal, and those 2 characters, you heard the whole story from the point of view of Jill, and Jill is a tattoo artist and a papel picado artist. She does paper cuttings, and she starts to tell about how she met Sal, how he inspired her, and how they fell in love, and then what happened. What happens for you is that you get to go to 8 different locations in the Lower East Side, and you get to listen to how they experience their relationship in those different locations. In 6 of those locations, I partnered with different Lower East Side businesses, which was really awesome because then I featured them in the story, and then you, as the participant, got to get something from that location. So I partnered with these really wonderful spaces called Yoga High, which is a yoga studio down on the Lower East Side, and you got to take a yoga class. The Fat Radish was a restaurant that you got to have a dish that they talked about in the story. Boise Contemporary is an art gallery, so you got to go and enjoy the art there. Last week in NYC was a coffee shop that participants got to have a cup of iced coffee. It was a special cup of iced coffee that only the characters had. My Plastic Heart was a toy store. It was a very boutique-y type of toy store where they take visual art and illustrations, and then they make those illustrations into vintage or limited edition plastic toys, which is a lot of fun. So you get a toy from that store, and then also the Parkside Lounge, which is kind of a stalwart bar in the Lower East Side. You get to get a drink, a beer or a special drink there that the couple shared. So it was really, really great working with these different partners because you didn't only get a chance to listen to the stories in the place, but you also got to sort of become more immersed in the experience. Like I mentioned, I used Movable Feast. My other platforms that I used for this iteration was Tumblr and YouTube. Movable Feast is a application for the iPhone, and what it does, these are some screenshots of the actual experience. You have a routed map, and then pins just over Google Maps, if you've experienced that before and used the iOS, which no longer has Google Maps. So this is retro now. And at the bottom of the first screen cap there, you'll see text, photo, video, and audio. And those are the 4 different medias that I used. The first example here is the text. And what I did was I had a Kickstarter campaign, and that Kickstarter campaign, I got all the participants, the donors who participated in the Kickstarter campaign, they gave me a line or a sentence about someone that they love or loved, and then I put it into an exquisite corpse poem. So there was 8 different little bits of a poem that were all throughout the locations. And so, my love, my family, my home, my world, in a world full of horses, you're a zebra. I thought I knew what love was, then I found you and learned I had never really loved before. That's like 3 different people wrote that poem. So that was a lot of fun because it was sort of a little crowdsourced art happening. There was photographs and then video, and at each location where the businesses were, I did interviews with the business owners so that participants could learn more about where they were and how the businesses started. And then at the, there was also other locations like a park and the Williamsburg Bridge, and I used those, the video in different ways that were more story-based. So I'm going to give you an example. The main story, like I said, was an audio story, which lived on the 4th media portion of the app. And so I'm just going to play a little minute and change excerpt here.
Hey, Sal. Glad you made it. Met you here a year ago today. You walked in the door and I literally tripped over myself. I never told you. I'm such a dork. Do you know where I can get a mat? I just point it. Terrified I'd say something stupid. In class, you were so... all I could think was, why? Why did this cutie position his tight tushy right in front of me? My mind raced. Bad for yoga. Was all off balance. Couldn't even get up in a tree pose, and that's my pose. I rock me some tree pose. I know. I always talk about how skeevy it is when guys scope out women in yoga classes, but there I was. Eyes fixed on you. I had every intention of coming into yoga high and getting my omo. You know me, all about grounding. And the music. God, the music moves through me. I get my flow on and whoosh, the world flies away. No cares in the world. You broke my concentration.
So that was Jenny McGuire as Jill, and she's speaking to Sal. And the idea is that you're basically stepping into Sal's shoes, and it's the anniversary of their first date, and Jill is taking Sal to all these different locations to relive the experience. If you have an iPhone, you can download Movable Feast still, and you can go into the library and, NYHearts, LES, is in the library there, and you can listen to the entire story. That's the first location, talking about the first date, and they met at Yoga High, which was the yoga studio. Yeah. Well, when people would arrive, it was a theater experience. It was part of a theater festival. So you buy your ticket as though you were going to the show, and when you arrived, there was a producer there on site, as though you would go to like a box office, only you were going to a yoga studio, and you check in and you get some instructions. Yeah, and some people hadn't downloaded the application. Some people had. We also sent emails from Jill to Sal, but it was actually to the people, and you received sort of a preparatory email kind of saying, wear comfortable shoes because you're going to be walking around a long time, wear yoga clothes, check the weather, make sure that it's not raining and that type of thing. We also had a waiver release, so there was that type of context that was given, and some tutorial was happening because some people, I even had someone say, I'm scared to touch it. They don't know where to touch it. So, there's a lot of, we'll talk about this a little bit more with Matt, but that's we did give some context before they started the experience. So the other sort of character in this story that got some play was this character of Polly. And what happens is if you go on the experience in the second location at Fat Radish, you discover that Sal already has a girlfriend named Polly, and he ends up breaking up with her to be with Jill. If you go online, Polly has created some video blogs, and it starts from the moment that Sal has broken up with her. So this is the first of 4 different video blogs on YouTube, and you can go check those out. If you go to NYHearts.com, you can find all the links to all of these, different bits and pieces.
In 3 weeks. Up and up, just like that. You something else going on. Every week the same yoga class. Yoga my ass. Probably knows there's someone else. It's gotta be. Don't know who. We're gonna find out. He's all sweet and smooth. But boy, it's damaged. Doesn't mean you treat people like that. Sal? You think you can just leave Polly, like dump something on the curb? Okay, you got issues. Everybody's got issues. Polly doesn't take that kind of crap from nobody. Sal, you're gonna regret being born.
So that's the first part of 4 different Polly videos, and Polly gets progressively more aggressive and does track down Sal. And if you go and listen to the Movable Feast part of it, Polly makes an appearance in the story. The one thing I will say is that Giselle Jones, who plays this character, is based out of Los Angeles, and with our great, awesome technology, we rehearsed over Skype. And then she did several takes on her own and sent me the different takes, and I chose the best of the ones that we wanted to use in the production. So it's just fun to, sort of tidbit that this person wasn't even in New York City when we did it. At one point, Polly discovers that Jill is an artist, and she has a website. So we end up getting Jill's website through Polly, and she's geared her website on a Tumblr page, and it's papel picado, and it's paper cuttings in the Mexican tradition. And this specific piece down here was Kai Margarita Rodriguez, all of her work, if you go online, it's called Connecting Dots. There's several different pieces, and she uses body parts, and she does paper cuttings of body parts. And it's really important for me, what I want to be doing with each different neighborhood is to have a different artist that isn't what I do, which is, creating transmedia or writing, involved with the production. So this time it was a visual artist. The next neighborhood, it's going to be a musician, and we're going to have some original songs that are going to go along with the story. Jill is also a tattoo artist. So because on Tumblr you can like stuff and repost stuff or reblog stuff, her other part of her blog is all about tattoo and stuff she likes. So like I mentioned, the next location is going to be Park Slope. We're going to be doing that in the spring. I'm really excited about it. And Matt and I are going to talk a little bit more about that now. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll run up here. Excellent. Very cool. Well, again, thank you. Thank you for showing us that and actually putting in a little bit of context. And are
Sure.
you currently backtrack?
I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's fine.
There we go.
There it is. Very cool. All right. So, James, I think it's probably. Oh.
Yeah. No. Yeah, clicker.
Yeah. Come on. There it is.
So you guys can look up all that stuff on your mobile devices while we're talking.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the genesis of this project, kind of where you came from, and how this kind of came about. I mean, I know it's part of the Gameplay Festival at the Brick, but what made you think, all right, this is where I want to go?
Well, so my background, for those of you who don't know, is in the theater. I've worked in the theater for about 15 years, and I had my own theater company for 8. And towards the end of that tenure, when I was the Associate Artistic Director of Terra Nova Collective, we produced a play that I had written called Feeder, a love story. And if you go to terranovacollective.org, there's a whole bunch of information there, or my website, onemuse.com. You can look at the portfolio, and there's more information on that. But basically what we did was I had created a play, and in the play, the characters had blogs and Twitter feeds and things like that, and they were talking about it, and this is before I had heard of transmedia. And I said, well, I should create these things. I should make them part of the experience before you do it. So I started doing that, and as I did that, that's when I basically discovered that people are calling it something.
It had a name.
Yeah, and then I discovered that people debate about whether they should call it that something. And
it's a hot topic.
But in the end, it was really my introduction to everything like sort of spreading out and not being in a black box theater. And so it really made me go, well, I want to continue creating like this, but my theater company has, awesome programs that are not based around this type of creation. So I left, and I sort of went out on my own to try and figure out what I wanted to do next. And I did a lot of research, and I met a lot of people, and I learned a lot of stuff. And then, interestingly, I knew that there was a theater festival called the Gameplay Festival at the Brick, and a woman named Gita Arbor, and some of you may have heard of her before. She created a piece called Red Cloud Rising, and also another piece called Suspicious Package. And Red Cloud was in the Gameplay Festival last year, and it was a location-based thing that was with text messages, and they used Twilio and a few other technologies to tell the story. But essentially, it was a scavenger hunt down in the financial district in Lower Manhattan. I went on that journey, and several months later, when the submissions for the gameplay was coming up, I approached Gita, who I've known for a while, and I said, do you guys have a neighborhood-based something this year? Are you doing anything? And she's like, actually, we don't. And I said, I have this idea, and I've been bouncing it around for a while and trying to figure out where I might be able to do it. And I pitched it to her, and she's like, apply, we'll work with you. This is really great. So I have to thank them quite a bit for the first iteration of this getting started. So go ahead, check out the Brick Theater and the Gameplay Festival. They do really awesome work for independent and sort of progressive work with regards to technology and all of that type of stuff. So that's how all of this sort of happened. But then as I created this, I realized that I wanted to do more than one neighborhood, and I wanted to really sort of give people an opportunity to explore these neighborhoods and explore small businesses that they may have not heard of before. And so I decided to do Park Slope. We're going to do, Lower East Side, then Park Slope's going to happen next, and then I'm looking at Chelsea and Williamsburg next year as well. Now, I had another idea that was sort of percolating. It has been percolating for a couple of years, and I've been trying to figure out, it's been very theoretical and be very, very theme-based, and I was like, I gotta get a story. I gotta, like no one wants to hear you spout on, like, theory and, about determinism and art and all of this other stuff. So I realized that these stories could, be like feeding into something else. So what's going to ultimately happen is that the characters that are developed in these neighborhood location-based stories are going to end up being a web series. And then that web series is going to sort of have one major character that's going to rise to the top, and she's going to be struggling with something, and then that struggle is going to take her into a live theater experience that's going to be more immersive, along the lines of sort of like an art installation or maybe a Sleep No More type of thing, if people are familiar with that show. But the idea is that she goes to a silent meditation retreat, and then we are going to have a space with like about 12 different rooms, and each room is going to represent a different compartment of her brain, so you get to like walk through her 10-day silent meditation.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's an epic sort of experience that I'm creating here, and I know that it's like we're talking about NYHearts today,
right?
But I mean, like I've been applying for grants, and I'm calling it codename NYHearts because you guys are the first to know that this is actually the part of a larger experience that hopefully, because when you get into the live theater experience, like the audio and the video and some things that I'm creating now are going to appear. And you might not have context if you haven't like experienced these other things, but then they will exist. So once you've done the theater experience, you can go back and watch the web series, or you can go back and you can do Movable Feast and get the context for where all of these characters came from.
Right, which is an interesting thing to kind of do, because one of the big criticisms you get for larger kind of transmedia properties is that they're very temporal. You can't go back to them, especially if there's that live experience, the walking tour or whatever. I mean, you can't recreate that sometimes. So it's very cool that you're kind of thinking not just on the ground level, but like, all right, 5-6 steps ahead, which we were going to, but I'm glad we covered it now.
Yeah, I did totally jump ahead there. But I guess
thank you all for coming. And no. Boom. Done.
No, but I think that what you're saying is really important, because what it does is it gives, if you do the neighborhood experiences, you get all of these really great, cool things. You get to go, food and, objects that you'll get and you get to hold on to, and it's very tangible and temporary, but the story still exists, and you can always go back and grab that.
I wouldn't necessarily call, at least NYHearts, a temporary thing. I mean, one of the things that was talked about even just yesterday, and I know we've chatted about, is the artifact kind of aspect of it, where there is the totem that you can take home with you, that you can always look at and say, oh yeah, this is that. I remember this. I was on that. I remember that meal that I had. Here's the menu. I mean, that's a very interesting kind of ground up again.
Well, and it was really it's fun, because I did have several friends come through to the experience, and the totem that they got was a keychain from my plastic heart, and I have at least 3 friends that have that keychain on their thing. So when they take out their keys and I see it, it's just, I mean, like, that's with them every day, and that's a fun thing to be able to say, like, daily, part of my experience is with that person.
Well, in that way, I mean, you're using that totem to kind of tell the story forever, and you're tapping into something much stronger, and that's memory, and it's not just something you go to and passively consume. It's something you participate in, which, as we all know, is a lot more powerful. So, I was wondering if we could maybe talk a little bit about kind of structurally, like how you built this out. I mean, I know how a film director would prep. I know how a theater director would prep. I know how a web designer would go about kind of, and an app designer, and really what you're talking about is world building on kind of, again, starts on a smaller scale in a neighborhood, but I mean, when you look at the larger scale of the project, I mean, you're really building a full kind of universe with these characters. So what are the challenges, I guess, that you faced at this level? And then I'll follow up with another one. That was a big mouthful.
Time.
Yeah,
Time.
Time.
That's the biggest. I mean, so Park Slope, the intention was to try and get Park Slope up and running this fall. And there wasn't enough time. And I think what I really realized was that, in a sense, this is a really sprawling, epic type of thing. Yeah. And my intention was to do Park Slope and then spend the winter, mapping out the rest of the Bible for the entire experience. And it just became really clear to me that I needed to do that before I did the Park Slope experience. So, in essence, Lower East Side was a big launching pad, and it was a lot of fun, and I was able to sort of create these two core characters of Jill and Sal, and the Park Slope experience is going to be Sal's story, so you get to find out what happened to Sal after Jill and Sal, and then two new characters are going to get introduced to Chelsea and to Williamsburg as well.
And will they continue to overlap as you...
Yeah, all the characters will be intertwined in some fashion, maybe some really closely and some like a little bit more further away. And everyone really liked Polly. They thought that she was wild. And I mean, like if you watch the progression of what happens with Polly, she progressively gets a little bit unhinged. And
you can't pick that up from any of the footage.
So I have a feeling that Polly's going to have like a stronger storyline as we go along. Anyway, the real answer is I'm going to take the winter to really map out the Bible, to really find out how this is all going to be, connected. And that's the biggest theme of this is like, Jill's website is called Connecting Dots, and thematically, which is what I was saying I was interested in earlier, determinism and how the choices that we make change our future or affect our future. And everyone who's created story worlds like this knows that if you're going to try to build a fan base and that fan base gets excited or rabid about it, and then you screw up one little piece or one little detail along the way, they'll be like, no, but like in episode 5, she did this, and you can't,
you violated
because
it.
she,
Yeah.
So in order to circumvent or preempt any of that type of conversation, which I'm sure will be out there anyway, right. I'm really going to map it out, and that's exciting. I've never done that. I've mapped out, plays and screenplays, which are very, tight. Mm-hmm. But this is sprawling across multiple medias and will, like you said, live on for, a long time. So as opposed to a play that is very,
finite.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's when you've succeeded. Whenever you have angry fans sending you nasty...
You don't have any angry fans yet. Who's...
Yeah. Can we have the angry fans raise their hand, please? Angry fans. Let's... oh, man. Vicious. It's actually, you were talking about themes and stories that'll kind of carry through, and I probably should have covered this in the very top of the conversation, but when folks tend to think about transmedia, immersive storytelling, it seems that a lot of projects kind of trend towards science fiction, towards horror, towards robots and invasions and spies.
Dystopian worlds.
That happen, you got, AIs that are infecting our, apiaries and such. So tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about, kind of, all right, well, I'm gonna do a love story. So
yeah, well, not only a love story, I'm going to do 4 love stories.
You're going to do many love stories that are intertwined.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, honestly, it's going to be 3 different sort of themes that I'm going to tackle. So the first part is about art and love,
right?
Where each one of the stories has a different artist that I'm going to be featuring, and then they're obviously dealing with love, and how does that affect their work, or how does that inspire them? The second part is there's going to be one of the characters that jumps off and becomes the main character of the web series. And not to reveal too much, but she ultimately becomes addicted to the internet. And so I'm going to be dealing with like themes and ideas of addiction and what that is. And ultimately, then someone is going to talk about you know, how to deal with this addiction, and they suggest going to this 10-day silent meditation retreat. And that is sort of the culmination of all of this stuff, which will, I think, become more abstract and possibly attractive to some of these dystopian.
But I mean, do you honestly feel any pressure, though? I mean,
no,
I think
not at all. No, and in fact, I feel more, if there's pressure, you know, I feel...
Go the other way.
Well, no, I feel like I want to just be dedicated to the vision of what I have, as opposed to trying to fit any sort of mainstream. Not that transmedia is mainstream, but like any sort of trends that are happening in it. You know, I was talking to another creator recently about doing love stories, and they were really excited that I was exploring and trying to tap into demographics that aren't typically represented.
Yeah, there's definitely not only like the kind of genre bias it seems that floats out there with transmedia, but it's only these certain types of people are plugging in and
it's white guys with black rim glasses and wait a second.
Oh no.
Nerds.
Nerds.
No, yeah. So I mean, just to sort of transition. I mean, there's 3 women here in the front that were involved with the project, and I mean, I do feel like it's that. The transmedia extension, those types of things, I was really with the Lower East Side trying to hit women 20 to 40, and that was my demographic to talk about that type of stuff now. But I wanted to do that because, like, you know, I had so many people, not just women, but people come through going, I've never done anything like this before. I've lived for 20 years in New York City, and I've never done anything like this. Right. And that's the joy. I mean, like, that's when you, like, go, oh, okay, well, I got something good here.
So, and actually, we, you know, as kind of a treat, we are going to talk to some of the folks that were, you know, participated in it and helped build it. But the last question I kind of want to lob at you before we get there is, as you know, obviously, you know, the big thing with immersive storytelling is the dialogue between creator and audience, that feedback. So, as you're looking at building this story world and this universe, I mean, let's, you know. How much are you kind of informed? All right, so this worked with Lower East Side, now I'm moving on to Park Slope, and I'm going to obviously take some lessons, right? But then when you move out of these location-based things and move into the play or to the web series, how do you envision, you know, kind of the transitions and taking your audience along for that ride, and kind of, as the story evolves, making sure they evolve with it?
It's like 6 questions.
I did ask like 6 questions there. I'm trying to, yeah.
No.
Shotgun. You'll get 2 or 3.
Well, the first part of it, I think, was, you know, talking to your audience and getting a response from your audience and then learning from that. And I feel like because I'm going to do 4 different versions of this, I have an opportunity to do that. Whereas, you know, you might make an experience and it's over. You know, sometimes. Obviously, if it's like an ARG where people are really participating and they're part of the world and they're contributing to the world, you can change the story. And, you know, I don't know that that's going to happen as much with this, but what is happening is the actual tour experience, you know, your day experience is going to be completely different. There was 8 different locations, 6 businesses. You started with a yoga class and then you walked around for 7 hours in the Lower East Side in the middle of July. There's some people chuckling, you know, because that sounds daunting, and I think it really was. I think it was daunting to people who didn't come, and so that's why they didn't come. And then it was daunting to some of the participants. They came through, and you know, there was, like I said, 8 different locations. The 7th location was a bar, and the 8th location was the Williamsburg Bridge. And most people stopped at the bar. They decided, well, I'm a little buzzed, and I'm not gonna, you know, take another 20-minute walk out to the Williamsburg Bridge. Now, there were some really amazing participants who were like, I can't wait to get to the bridge. This is awesome.
What's gonna happen?
Yeah, what's gonna happen at the bridge? And those people who did that had a great experience because they were arriving at the bridge at sunset, and it was like exactly how I envisioned it. And people were, you know, it was really a wonderful immersive experience. But what I learned is that I need to have fewer businesses involved. I need to make it a shorter experience. It's going to be probably about 2.5 to 3 hours when I do Park Slope. It's going to be, we're going to end it at a bar. It'll just, that makes sense, and there's certain things that you learn. And I feel like learning from all of those things is obviously going to make the next 3 experiences so much the better. And I'm hoping, obviously, one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to increase my sponsorship so that I can lower my ticket price. The ticket price wasn't really a lot. It was $55, which when you think about all of the things that you get for the day and then the fun experience that you get, it's not bad. But I do think that certain theater goers were like, oh, I'm used to spending like $30 or $25 on an off-Broadway type of show, and I'm trying to try and figure a way to bring that price point down. So those are the things that I learned. Now, as far as bringing people along to the web series, I feel like not doing Park Slope now will help that, because it's going to end up bringing everything into 2013. Mm-hmm. And I'll be able to have some momentum with the first 2 pieces that I'm going to do at the beginning of the year, take the summer to work on the web series and part 4 of Williamsburg location, and then basically simultaneously launch those types of things. So we'll do the Williamsburg neighborhood, and then probably a few weeks after that closes, we'll launch the web series, and that'll happen. So I think if we compress everything more into 2013, it's going to give that momentum, as opposed to what I see was going to happen. It was going to be 2 neighborhoods, you have the winter, and then 2 more neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So the intention is to try and have momentum with the project. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that works.
How big's your crew? How many people build this with you?
2.
All right.
No, that's not true. That's totally not true.
Cast of thousands.
Well, right now it's a cast of 2, which, and I had a really, I do have to shout out Jenny McGuire again. Jenny was really, she's one of these actors who has been involved with script development a lot, and she was very instrumental into the development of the script. So just to give her some love there. And then Giselle, who you saw on screen, is a friend of mine for 15 years, so actually longer than that. But and so I was really, really happy to be working with close friends. I had a terrific sound designer who, Shane Reddig, who is a Drama Desk nominated sound designer off Broadway, and just super guy, and he's really excited to be a part of the second part because, like I said, it's going to involve music, and he's a musician, and then we have a music duo called the Banksons, and the Banksons, they're married, and they are just a dynamic, awesome. So the idea is that the Asal ends up meeting the love of his life, and they start making music together. So it takes the story in a completely different direction, and it's, I think, going to be a little bit more rosy, a little less dark, and
not as many death threats.
Not as many death threats.
We're cutting them down.
Yeah. So I would say that there's about a team of creative team of about 5 or 6. Sandy Bill, who's my associate producer, and I were really the only 2 sort of administratively working on this iteration.
And this might be a perfect segue to, if you could introduce some of the folks that you've brought along that are, if you guys want to wave or...
I said Sandy Bill was the only one. Sandy Bill's my associate producer. Christy Briggs, who also happens to be my wife, is the graphic designer. So if you liked any of the designs, she's right in the middle here. And she's really awesome. And then Mel Russo is one of the co-owners of Yoga High. And I just brought her along today because I wanted her to talk about her point of view a little bit, being a business participant.
Allow me to take my, as we said before, Donahue pose.
Yeah, he's going to fill Donahue.
I'm going in the audience. Going in. Okay, so actually, we'll start with Yoga High. Oh man, did I just ruin your day? Okay, a little feedback. All right, somebody comes to you, says, "Hey, I've got this idea." What is your first reaction? How did you become involved? I suppose. I mean, Yeah. There you go.
Well, do I have to look at you or have to turn around?
You can talk to anybody. You can. Yeah.
Should I turn around?
Sure.
Hi. Oh well, I've known Christy, JD's wife, is a friend and am I allowed to say?
Yeah, tell her.
And a yoga teacher at my studio. So I've known Christy and JD for a while.
Okay.
And I saw Feeder, A Love Story, JD's play, and I thought it was phenomenal, and I thought he was ridiculously talented, and I just loved his mind and the way he thought.
I love your mind too, Mel.
No, it really was incredible. So when he approached my business partner and I about this, it just sounded so cool. And we love our community. We love the Lower East Side. We love being involved with anything that's going to help make the Lower East Side a little bit more interesting, a little bit more creative, since it is getting a little Wall Streety. So we were very happy to participate.
And I just to say, Mel and Liz, her partner, were extraordinary. People ask me, "How did you get all these businesses?" And I'm like,
That's where I
"Well,
was going next.
I went to Mel and Liz first because of obvious reasons, and they were immediately they said, we have other businesses that might be interested," and I was like, "That's awesome." And they connected me to some people. The coffee shop that I used was directly because of them.
So it wasn't even a matter of like I use what you got. You didn't have to go out too far.
Oh, I did. I had to pound the pavement for
Okay.
for the restaurant, and that was the hardest to sort of nail down. And I think it's because restaurants, if they're successful at all, don't need any help in New York City. You have to try like. Lost Week in NYC, which is the coffee shop, had only been open for 9 months. And I think that younger businesses, Bosie Contemporaries also, they were a gallery, and they're only open for 9 months.
So that almost sounds like it's good advice for someone who's exploring this kind of thing. Look for people who are doing kind of what you're doing, breaking new ground in whatever area they're in.
Yeah, I definitely think that. And even Fat Radish has only been around for about 1.5 years, and I think that they just crossed that edge of being struggling. But their owner is super awesome and super dynamic, and they just opened a bar across the street from the Fat Radish, and I would highly recommend going to check them out. It's just they were very interested in creative. I mean, everyone that was involved was just like, what can I do? How can I be a part of this? And they were excited about me wanting to interview them and be a part of this. And My Plastic Heart, they're just awesome. They've been around for 7 years in the Lower East Side. And then Parkside Lounge has been around for 40 years. But Parkside is a big arts supporter. So you got to know not just your audience, but you got to know your business partners. And for me, that was the most important thing is finding, if I walked in and I sat down with somebody and they were asking me 30 questions, 20 questions is okay, but when they're asking 30 questions and they're
that's the line.
But it's just it's you don't get what I'm trying to do here, or you're going to be difficult to work with, And everyone was awesome, they were so cool. So anyway, we got a question. Well, I sort of knew what my general overhead for the businesses needed to be, and I was trying not to go over that number, and I didn't go over that number. I was really, really psyched that it was coming way in under, and then I had a business join, and it shifted everything and brought it up to my cap. So I didn't go over my projected overhead for the businesses, but in the end, I did end up spending a little bit more money than I wanted to, which is why going forward, I'm really approaching businesses with sponsorships, trying to get complete sponsorships. It may be difficult to do at a restaurant per se, because that's hard overhead for them to eat, not to make a pun, but the bar, the coffee shop, everyone was really, even Yoga High was really generous as to the price point that they gave me. It was 50% off or less for most of the businesses. So it was a great deal.
Any other questions? I know we're kind of getting towards the end. Do we have any questions out there floating? I can keep cool.
Hey.
Excuse me.
You think it's a very simple matter. Right, logistically, yeah. It can happen again. Mhm. Mhm. Well, the way I look at, yeah, right. Well, the nice thing is that the base of them are text, audio, video, and photos. Movable Feast, I don't know if it will exist in 30 years because it's what it is. But um, uh, those elements I can post on a website anywhere, anytime. In fact, that's what I'm planning on doing going into the winter, is I'm going to be posting all the videos that I created for this experience. Because obviously one of the drawbacks for this is that Movable Feast is only available on iOS. So if you have an Android, you're out of luck. Or if you don't have a smartphone, you can't really participate in the thing. I did have an Android user come through, and I sent all the audio files to that person, and they were able to go through and do the immersive experience, but they weren't able to see any of the video or any of the text or any of the photos. So they were missing out. So that's why I'm going to post all of those elements online now. If you go to the NYHearts website, there's links to Polly's stuff on YouTube, and there's links to the Tumblr page, which is still active. So I guess the short answer to your question is it's not meant for other people to do. It's like a film, and if somebody wants to recreate it, they're going to have to do a remake in 30 years. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have to...
So it's meant to be, this is it, and that's...
Yeah, and I
they're not
think, I
gonna
mean,
pick
like
it up
I've
in
been thinking
Chicago.
quite a bit about the immersive theater piece that's going to happen in like 20 months from now, because I have to think about that. But is that theater piece, I would say it's going to be more akin to like a performance art piece that isn't necessarily meant to be recreated over and over again in regional theaters. If it does get recreated, it's going to be because someone asks me to come and recreate it, like Taylor Mack doing his work with Lily's Revenge. It's an epic 5-hour theater experience, but no one's going to produce that regionally unless they have Taylor come through and do that. You know, Sleep No More is not going to have someone do it unless, you know, they bring Punch Drunk in to recreate that. And so I see the live theater experience or the possibility of remounting those things akin to that type of thing, which is cool. That's what this experience is for me. As far as like the media elements and the web series go, I think that they'll be there. You know, I don't know if 30 years from now I want them to be there. I'll probably pull everything. Or like I was like young and
foolish and stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, right in the back.
Yeah, well, so like I mentioned, I had some text that became an exquisite corpse poem, and it was really preparatory type of work that I did, in the sense that I asked all of these people who donated to the Kickstarter campaign to give me lines from someone that they love or loved, and I made these exquisite corpse poems that sounded like they were written by Jill. One thing that didn't happen with this version that I really, really want to like figure out, and that's part of this Bible writing, is how do I engage on social media? And I really mean marketing. I'm not talking about like a character Twitter feed or something like that.
I'm talking about spreading the word.
Spreading the word, but doing it in like a smart and fun, creative way. And the way to do that I think, and I haven't figured out what the play or the game will be. It's not. I don't mean a game, but like the interaction will be, is having people continue to feed me things about things that they love, or the people that they loved, you know, or art that they love, because these first four are about art and love. And I mean, like this next part is about a musician, and I would love to have people just send me, you know, musicians and things that I've never heard of, people that I've never heard of, and start sort of maybe a feed and posting stuff from the actual the Facebook, New York Hearts Facebook page and the New York Hearts Twitter feed, which are straight up like marketing tools, and then finding ways to interact with the audience in that way, so that people feel like they're getting engaged with the creation of the story, and then have those elements pop up in the neighborhood experiences. That's what I want to have happen. I don't see, that would be crazy if it happened, but I don't see fanfic happening, and I don't necessarily see it becoming an ARG where people are really deeply engaged and pushing the nature of the story itself or the trajectory of the story. But I definitely want to get people more involved, because that was like one of the most fun things, was to create. And I had people like read these poems and they go, "This is gorgeous." I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't write that." And they were like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And like that's to me like part of like when people talk to me about transmedia or multiple storytelling or engagement of your fans, or it's like it has to be about collective creation, or maybe curation of collective creation, and because everybody's creating now, and if you ignore the fact that everybody's creating something, then you're ignoring a very valuable part of your audience's, the audience brings great value to your story, and I think that people often forget about that, or at least the past there has been sort of a perspective about the audience that the audience is just to sit there and listen. And my favorite part of today has been talking to you guys, so.
Awesome. So whenever people want to check up about the future of New York Hearts, we go here to NYHearts.com.
Yeah, that's the website. There's a Twitter, there's a Facebook, there's my, One Muse is my website, and then you can follow me too.
So we can watch this process as it unfolds. Do you have any plans to do like live production journal as you roll out Park Slope or anything like that? Or
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a blog, and I've been putting a lot of that type. The New York Hearts has a blog, and then I have my own blog, and there's a lot of sort of production notes that are happening as that rolls out. So.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, James, for coming.
You.
Thank you for talking
Thank
to
you
us,
all.
and thank you for kind of giving us a kind of glimpse into your process as this evolves. It's going to be really exciting to see it all come together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.